Hi there, welcome to this really short vodcast. It's just a single slide. As you can see here, we've got a page reference. If you look at the Hodder textbook 124 to 126, other textbooks are available. But today, just a really quick and simple overview of weapons of the First World War, the kind you might need to know if it came up on a describe two key features of weapons of the First World War, or weapons on the Western Front. So first weapon I'm going to have a look at is the rifle. It was standard, every soldier would have them. There weren't new weapons, they'd been around since the 1800s, but these were an improvement. They didn't load the bullets one at a time anymore, they had a magazine in them, well certainly the British ones did, and the bullets were pointed rather than being like a ball, and that would mean they would travel faster, further, and they were more accurate and powerful. The British Army's rifle was called the Lee Enfield, and it was accurate to just about a mile if the target stayed still long enough for the bullet to travel over there. Each soldier would carry them. It was important for them to make sure, and they would also have a bayonet at the end of the rifle if they were going into action. They wouldn't have it on all the time. These had to be kept clean every day. It was actually more important than keeping yourself clean. Wounds from these were typically, if you were out on patrol and stuff, but they weren't the main weapon causing injuries. The next weapon we see is the machine gun. It could fire 500 to 600 bullets a minute, so that's about 10 a second, and typically had the firepower of over 100 rifles. They were heavily used to defend the trench systems, not so much with going into the attack, but actually defending them from an attack. Both sides used them to great effect. This particular machine gun, the Vickers Machine Gun, you can see the belt of ammunition there, and they were water cooled to stop them from overheating. Later on in the war they became lighter, and you saw things like the Lewis machine gun, which had a drum and magazine that fitted on the top, and it was a lot more portable. But for the most part, these were defensive weapons. The main weapon that caused over half the casualties on the Western Front was artillery, and it's basically an improvement on the cannons that you see in pirate films and stuff. They were more accurate, they would carry a heavier shell which could explode even actually just before contact on the ground. But the British had a howitzer, a type of cannon, artillery shell that could fire a 900 kilo shell at 12 miles. That wasn't typical, but with factories producing millions of shells, bombardments, especially right before things like the Battle of the Somme, they lasted over a week, and it was non-stop. In fact, if the cannon broke, they would simply just get a new cannon, a new artillery piece to replace it. Over half the casualties came from artillery, and that's because while you could protect soldiers from machine guns and rifle fire through trenches, you couldn't stop an artillery shell from landing into those the bays of the trench. So artillery was something that could constantly be putting you at risk of injury or death. As said, Battle of the Somme, you were seeing week-long bombardment. The last weapon we're going to have a look at was poison gas. Now, poison gas was developed by the Germans in 1915 using chlorine, and it was designed to actually incapacitate you. It wasn't going to kill masses of people. It was designed to incapacitate, scare the opposition forces, and clog up the trench system with wounded, and clog up the evacuation route with wounded. So, but it wasn't a war winner, because although it created fear in the first instance and it clogged the casualty clearing stations, later on it was minimised by the development of the gas masks and treatments including oxygen and washing victims to remove gas. The first gas was chlorine, then later on they developed phosgene, and finally you saw the use of mustard gas, which wasn't actually a gas, it was a blistering agent. It was tiny droplets of liquid that would blister the skin. So you saw advances and development on poison gas, but it never became a war winner because it was also quite fragile. If the wind changed direction, the gas could move away, or in fact actually could blow back into your own forces lines, which wasn't a good thing. So we've just done a very quick overview. Hope it's been useful. This is looking at weapons of the First World War. If you have any queries or questions regarding this, please feel free to comment, and thanks for listening.